How's it going? How's your week been?
Interesting week, you know. It's funny when you yeah, looking back, like a lot has happened this week. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. What happened? What happened for you?
My tragic story of the week from the news or whatever is the rumors of Kim and Kanye potentially getting a divorce.
Oh wow.
That wasn't,
I've not heard about that.
you know, that was way too on my radar and kind of, I was like, that's sad. That's real sad.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, that was quickly sort of drowned out by America and just America.
Yeah. I've just not been following it, to be honest. Like it's come up, like it's hard to avoid.
Mm,
But it's just like it doesn't surprise me in any way. I've been to America a couple times. I'm
mm.
not surprised,
I I watched back the like camp video when we were in like Washington DC, and I was like,
hmm
damn, we were like there, and now it's absolute like carnage.
True. I might have to go back and watch it. That would be interesting.
Mm,
Yeah, it is because it is carnage. It is carnage just now, but what can we do? We're so removed from our actual lives that it's kind of silly how much we see about when it's like it affects zero of my day-to-day life.
yeah, and we've got our own sort of British political nonsense to be worrying about rather than like, 'cause technically like that side of things doesn't generally impact us that much.
hmm Yeah, it does impact us, maybe at all. So I think it's more valuable to spend time worrying about like our own lives and like what's going on.
Yeah.
So what's been happening for your first week of 2021?
Well, I was pretty optimistic, pretty, you know, confident, and I was in a let's crush 2021 mood, and then we got thrown into the third national lockdown, which
Yeah.
um, definitely had a sort of threw a negative spanner in the works for me. Like,
hmm
so yeah, there was that day where there was the announcement that came at like 8 p.m.
hmm
and so people got confused down here, like, because the lockdown didn't actually go into effect. So it was like, what? It was Monday, it got announced, and then it didn't go into effect until Wednesday at midnight. So it was technically
Right.
24 hours notice, but I don't think a lot of people really were aware there was like a window of, we can still have this 24 hours to prepare for that. But I think everyone just sort of like watched the announcement and then closed straight away.
Yeah.
So I kind of like
Definitely.
went out to do business stuff, and half the places I normally go were just like, yep, lockdown. And I was like, well, no, it's tomorrow is the lockdown. So
hmm
I think there's a underlying feeling in the country anyway that people wanted just to shut everything down like way before um, the actual third lockdown happened. But
hmm
yeah, just these lockdowns are just like the new norm now. So it's
The
just
new
like,
normal.
yeah, I think like I was peak, like proper pissed off about the second one happening because I was like, bruh. But the thing I liked about the second one is like they had the like cheeky expiry date. They were like, but come this date, we're gonna end it. And now this one's just like more like the first one where it's like we're going into lockdown, not sure when we're gonna come out of it. They
Yeah.
kind of threw out like
Couple of
the
dates, but it's like, ugh. They sort of
yeah,
said it like that, didn't they? They're like, was it like 18th of February?
yeah.
Maybe. 11th of February, maybe.
But I guess the positive we have about this lockdown is we've shut down and they're sort of like rolling out the vaccine, which is the positive.
Mm-hmm.
Plus
That
they keep,
everyone's talking about.
yeah. Plus they keep like, I think today they like greenlit another vaccine. So there's like 3 vaccines out there.
Damn. Yeah, we got a letter in the post being like, just like it's like a brown envelope with no name or anything on this. Like, yeah, we're rolling out the vaccine. If you're in one of these groups, make sure you go get it, kind of thing. So that was pretty cool. But I mean, other than that, it's like, I mean, for us, it's pretty much the same. We've been in like the highest tier the whole time. Like, we've not had any. Like, it's obviously a bit different. Some more stuff is closed, but not hugely different. But we have had lots of snow. It's very snowy here today.
Oh,
I'll show you a picture.
yeah.
We've got. I was gonna lift it up, but I've got all shit plugged in now, so it's not really worth it. It's not really
I
worth it.
noticed we're in a different setup. Where are we
We're
today?
we're in the bedroom today. The bed is like just down there. You can see my drinking glass. How do I do that? There's my drinking glass. This isn't. What is my? There. There's sort of outside of the kitchen window.
Oh, a winter
Very
wonderland.
snowy. Yeah. So it's so cold. I mean, hadn't checked the weather today, but yesterday it said that today was going to get to as low as -8. So it's real cold here. But we've got to go out in the snow later, driving around in the snow. So that'd be interesting.
Really?
Yeah, we need to get food.
Oh, yeah. You're not a clicking to the door kind of vibe.
We did for like during the first lockdown, we were doing like click and collect. Like it was so good. We found, because of obviously Glasgow's pretty big and there's a lot of people here, so it's quite hard to find, particularly at the start, places that had any slots to do it. But we found like one Sainsbury's like 20 minutes away that would always have a slot. So we'd always go like 7 o'clock Monday morning and go pick up our shopping. So we did that for weeks and weeks, and then we've ended up just now when we go shopping, we just go to that Sainsbury's. It's not even that near us. It's just like there's nearer shops, but we just have we kind of have like a relationship with that Sainsbury's and enjoy it. So that's where we tend to go. But yeah, I mean it's interesting, isn't it? Because of now it's just like I'm pretty chill to go into shops. Like it's not that bad. I'm used to it now, like with the masks and stuff. It's still pretty bad, but like at the start it was quite scary, I think. So we were always going like click and collect.
It was a weird vibe when we were in that Sainsbury's when we met in Salisbury. I was just like,
it was horrendous, wasn't it? That Sainsbury's was horrendous. Oh dear. People just walking around like, that was the part that got me. Like, instead of having a mask, just holding their t-shirt up above their face. I was like, this is terrifying. And yeah, it was quite busy as well, which was never good. So yeah, I mean, what else has been happening? Oh, we were doing this diet, this 800 calories a day diet.
How's that going?
Well, it's been very interesting, very, very interesting. I'd highly recommend that people try it for a bit. Like the first 3 days were really intense, because it says 800 calories, but it's basically just like fasting, right? You're not like 800 calories isn't really enough to, it's enough to maybe keep you going for a bit, but it's not much.
No.
So yeah, it's like let's get going in pretty deep. Like it's quite an intense experience and constantly like thinking about food. But it's been kind of good. We've been eating a lot more greens. Like it's kind of like no carb, like low carb, high fat, high protein kind of stuff. So it's like just loads of greens and like fish or greens and veg and that kind of thing. But we kind of were like talking about it, and it felt as though the first 3, maybe 4 days were like super intense, and I felt like we were like learning a lot. I was like really thinking about like my relationship with food and like societal relationships with food. Like I was going in deep. And also like kind of practicing restraint, right? Because of like over Christmas and stuff, I was just eating everything. You know, it was chaos. So it was good. It was good to have those first sort of few days of like restriction and control and that kind of thing. But as we were getting into it for longer, it's kind of like, yeah, this isn't a good thing to do long term. It's not good to eat like basically nothing long term. Like it's not healthy. It's not like listening to your body. It's not. It just sounds insane. I was in a lot of pain. Like my legs and ankles were like, I felt almost like growing pain or like cramps, that kind of thing, and all of my legs and ankles. I just felt very weak. I fainted at one point. I had a day 2. I had a really hot bath, got out and fainted.
Oh, blimey.
So yeah, it wasn't. We kind of like said, you know, it's probably not really worth doing it, but it's been a good lesson, and we're gonna like we've got lots of good recipes now and can be a bit more healthy moving forward. So we're just transitioning now into like healthy eating rather than basically just like starving yourself every single day.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been quite an intense week because of that. Like it's been so long. Like you don't realize how much food helps time pass when you're not eating. You just like the first 3 days we were like, oh, is this day 3? This year 2021 has felt the same length as like last year. It took forever. But yeah, we've just had our first non-diet meal, I guess. I mean, it's still pretty healthy, but
What was that?
oh, you would love this, mate. I recreated a hummus bar situation.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, so we had like we've got some really nice bowls. We got some like really nice kind of like serving bowls for Christmas, and they're like got beautiful patterns on. And we had hummus in there with like fried onions and mushrooms on top, oil, spices, a little bit of pita bread, some pickles to dip, some olives to dip, some chilies as well, and we just went at it. So good. But you know, it was only a little bit more calories than what we'd normally like. Normally, we were sort of doing 2 meals a day, you know, intermittent fasting. But so this was, instead of the 400 calorie meal we'd have normally at lunchtime, this was 600 calories. So still pretty good. Yeah. So yeah, that's been. I mean, all I've thought about all week is food. Like I've just wanted to have a hummus bar experience. So that's what I made. But yeah, what's been going on with you?
As I said, that window, that 24 hours where it was like nobody knew whether it was lockdown or not, when it just wasn't. I found like one place for Copper's stock, and it was like such a good place. It's one of my like absolute gems where I can spend a good like 30 to 45 minutes just because they just have like literally piles of clothing. And I was like, right, this is my last chance to sort of like get cheap stuff to ride out lockdown. So I was in there for a hot minute just digging and digging, and I managed to get a nice like fairly decent pile of stuff to work through. So I've got that as well as some stuff that I had previously that I haven't sorted out. So stock wise is going to be interesting. I like mapped out some YouTube video ideas that I'm going to sort of produce, because now I haven't got that whole sourcing, going out, doing that cycle of it. I can now focus on the sort of like the content side. So maybe start busting out TikToks again, because I covered that in this video I just put up before I hopped on here, because I made a video on like 5 ways to sort of increase sales on Depop, and I like did a whole section on just like social media and content, and how, you know, just constantly having something out every day is very important for sort of like organic reach and stuff like that. So TikTok is very good because you can literally post this video with just a sound, and like you could we can put no hashtags on, and somehow it'll get like 300 views or
Yeah.
some. It's mad. So
Mhm.
that's a tool that's like important that to use, and I definitely want to get on it a bit more during this lockdown, considering I've got all this extra time on my hands.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Damn, TikTok's a weird place, isn't it?
Oh yeah, like I have to just boycott it for like a week or so at a time, because the times I do go on it, once you've gone past like one or two TikToks, you are down the rabbit hole. And the worst part about it is
Yep.
the further down the rabbit hole, the more the rabbit hole learns about you and just keeps
Yeah,
you going down, 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 and down until you're like
sucks you in.
3 hours in on a TikTok sesh, and you're like, where did that time go? I'm never getting that time back.
Yep.
Did I
Yeah,
learn anything on this
definitely.
journey? Probably not, but
Probably not.
it learned a lot about me and will definitely be notifying me for more.
Yep. Yeah. No, it's a bit scary. It is a bit scary. I was watching. Actually, I made some notes of it. I was watching like there's someone I like on YouTube. He was interviewing someone. They were talking about like TikTok and stuff. And what was the quote I wrote down? It's about like basically that people can't understand each other anymore because of their, we're all down our own rabbit holes, and so we forget. It's very easy to forget that we all share experiences because of when you're down a rabbit hole, you're not even really looking at your own experience. You're kind of looking through this like lens of this like TikTok. Let's just stay with TikTok. This TikTok lens. You're really deep in it, and we kind of like we think that that's reality, and so we end up like projecting the things we see on TikTok into our day-to-day lives and into ourselves. So we're not even in tune with ourselves, and so we can't really connect with one another. And I saw that in the YouTube comments of all places. I just thought it was like really cool. Because I saw another thing which was like, no matter how much time you spend online, almost everyone could benefit with cutting it in half. I was like, that's pretty good. I like that. So I've been going deep this week. I don't know if it's like just not eating and you just like start questioning everything, but like a lot's been going on over here in my mind. But it's been good. It's been an intense week.
Yeah, because I'm with you there on everyone could like do cutting their sort of online activity in half, because
Mm.
I'll have this sort of mental list of things I need to do, and then next minute I'll just find myself gawping at some YouTube video which I'm not necessarily getting any value from, and
Yeah.
I'll literally stop myself and just go, what are you doing? And pause the video, or not pause it, just close the tab and go do something that was on that sort of list of stuff that I needed to do.
Yep. Definitely. I mean, I'm agreed with you there because YouTube is definitely my thing. Like, I'm not on TikTok, I'm not on Instagram, I'm not on Facebook, but I'm on YouTube like all the time. This week, I've gone down a bit of a rabbit hole about roller coasters, a little roller coaster rabbit hole.
I've been there.
Watching videos
I've
about
been
like
there.
how they're made, like how things work, like the engineering behind it, and yeah, it was weird, like because it kind of started off. Well, when I was younger, I used to watch some like daily vloggers, and I was like, I'm just going to check in. Like, I've not done that in maybe, I don't know, 4 years or something, but
Which
I'm just going to check in.
which daily vloggers are you talking about?
The one I checked in with was Charles Trippy. You know Charles Trippy?
I've heard of this. Yeah, he was like a big. Was he like a music guy? Someone did music.
He's in the band We the Kings.
Yeah,
That's the
didn't
band.
he have like cancer or something?
Yeah, he's had many brain operations.
I think, yeah, I remember you talking about this guy like when I first met you or something.
Sake. That's so annoying. I said to Romy about it. She's like, "Yeah, you've mentioned this guy before." I'm like, "Oh my god, have I?" Because to me, it's like doesn't come up at all, and then obviously it must come up more than I realize, and I must be like influenced by it more than I realize. But yeah, it was just like a very strange feeling. It was like just after I fainted as well, like having like a fever dream, watching like vlogging videos from essentially from my childhood. I used to watch it when I was a kid, though, so. And he's into roller coasters, and that's when the algorithm took over. But it's been a fun one. It's been a fun little week on.
How's he doing, old Charles Trippy?
Oh mate, he's all right. I think he's had a kid now, so he's doing okay. But
Yeah.
the vlogs are weird. Like, it's interesting to know, like, and this is kind of something that you spoke about the other day as well. But like, once you go past a certain point, when you look back at those points, it's like, what was I? How could I like? In this case, it was like, how could I like this, or how could I think like this, or how could this be entertaining, or how could I not see through this kind of thing? Because I found it kind of like, and it has its time and place, but like it felt a little bit kind of like shallow in that it wasn't particularly deep, or it wasn't like he's not really exploring much. He's not really sharing that much about his life necessarily. Just like kind of, it's very like sporadic, kind of random thoughts, like random clips. But yeah, I used to love that kind of stuff when I was younger, and now it's just like, I don't know. I felt a lot of distance between my younger self, I guess. I was like, oh yeah, I'm not the same now. But yeah, he's fine, I think. Won't worry about him too much.
Yeah, no, I definitely think it's interesting to look back on YouTubers that you watched when you were like, I don't know, a teenager, or what you consider yourself a kid to be, and revisiting them now, because I'm not the kind of guy that like would normally savagely unsubscribe to someone because of something. Like, I've just sort of had those people and they just still like float around in my sub box, and it's interesting. Sometimes they'll just post something that's just like very not them, and I'd say the biggest one for me, like being a huge fan when I was younger to what they are now, is, did you ever watch Ben Brown?
Yep.
Yeah, I'd say
Sometimes.
he's taken like the biggest sort of U-turn from what he was to what he is now. And
Really?
yeah,
What's he now? What's the U-turn?
well, he was like, so when I was watching him when I was younger, he just sort of, he was this like kayaking athlete, and he'd kind of given that up to sort of pursue YouTube, and he became this cool like dope filmmaker, and he collabed with a lot of British sort of YouTubers that I was a fan of. So he was friends with Fun for Louis and Steve Booker, and that's where like Laptop Club came from, because they would always go to this little coffee shop in like Surrey, and they just always have Laptop Club, and I'm like, that's the vibe. I always wanted to have that vibe. And yeah, they really like rubbed off on me, and my friend even met them when they did some pop-up in London, and they were like selling sort of like t-shirts with cool photography prints and stuff.
That brings back a memory. I don't know. I seem to remember that happening.
Yeah. But now he's sort of gone on this spiritual journey where he's very trying to, it's all very not me, it's a bit spiritual and soul searching kind of vibe. Very interesting. If you just watch one of his like more recent videos, it's very jarring to see how he's kind of just like completely binned off his old self, and he's on this journey now, and it's very, I don't know, like, I'm not one to judge, I'm not slating him or anything, but it's very interesting. And my friends that also are a fan of what was him, it's a great talking point when you meet someone that has been a fan of him and just kind of commenting on what he does now. It's very, yeah.
I'm gonna have to have a little dip into that and see what that's about. I'll make it.
You might be about it. You might be like,
I might be into it. I'm into that kind of thing sometimes, but definitely depends. Definitely depends. Well, on topic of soul searching.
Thought you'd like that.
Great segue. Great segue. So yeah, we had this idea where Tom's very much into film. You studied it. You make videos.
Yeah.
I haven't seen very many films. Like, I haven't seen a lot of the classics. I'm a bit better in recent years, but there's a lot of films I haven't seen. So the idea was Tom would sort of recommend a film each week. I'd watch it, Tom would watch it, and then we'd have a chat about
Yeah. Right up my street there.
it. So this week, we watched the film, it's new, right? I'm pretty sure it's new.
So this week I suggested we watch Pixar's new blockbuster, came out on Christmas Day, Soul, directed by Pete Docter, who's been
That's it. I tried to do an intro, but no, that's the intro we needed.
yeah. So yeah, came out Christmas Day, was meant to come out during like the summertime, I think, but because of COVID, it got postponed, and then Disney Plus kind of rolled out, and then they thought it'd be rather fitting to just drop the new Pixar banger on Christmas Day. And I think it was a smart move. Like, I think it accidentally became this sort of Christmas Day blockbuster. And yeah, it was very nice watching it Christmas Day night, and quickly fell in love with the film and thought it would be a great talking point for the first sort of podcast movie chat.
Podcast movie chat. Yeah, it's a great film. I watched it last night and I really enjoyed it. It took me, maybe it's best to start off like going into it. I was trying to think. I thought it might be helpful to kind of write down what I was thinking going into it. I was like, okay, I don't really have a clue what this movie's about. I knew it was about. I knew it was an animation.
Mm.
I knew it was Pixar. I knew it was called Soul. And I think I'd maybe seen like an image, like a promo image or something. So I kind of thought it was going to be about like music, like a kind of like a play on the fact that like, soul music and the soul and how that kind of fit into each other. But other than that, I had nothing going into it. I also saw a picture of because Carl Jung makes an appearance in it, and I saw a picture of that. But that was all I had to go on. So I was pretty removed. I didn't really know what to expect. But yeah, wow, what a film! I mean, should we do a spoiler alert? Spoiler alert.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty shocking if you haven't seen it at this point, but if you haven't seen it, we're gonna reveal all.
Yes, definitely. So yeah, I kind of like going into it thinking it's about music, and obviously it starts with. Do you want to set the scene? You probably know it better than me.
So the start, we're introduced to the main character, which is
Joe Gardner.
Joe Gardner.
Yeah.
And we're introduced to him as he is the music teacher at what looks like a high school, elementary school, whatever they go with in
Some kind
America.
of school. Mm-hmm.
And he then sort of gets offered this full-time position as the music teacher, and I like in the film they make it very blatant and sort of they make that a big moment that he's been given this full-time job with the healthcare and the pension and whatever.
Yeah.
And then he goes back to his mum, who is sort of very much one of these sort of, I don't know how to say it, but
There's at the start when you first meet the mum, there's later on it's sort of explained a bit more, but like when you first meet the mum, she's kind of like, it seems she's a working lady. She's kind of got her own business, and she seems like she works a lot, and so she kind of is. She wants him to have a good life, so she's like, "You should take that. That's great." You really need
Yeah.
to take that. What an amazing opportunity. And so she's encouraging him to sort of take that role.
And he sort of says to her that he's gonna do it, but you can tell that he blatantly like ideally doesn't want to live his rest of his life doing that one job.
Mm-hmm.
And then just sort of during that moment, he gets a phone call from one of his past students who is saying he's performing with Dorothea Williams, who's a bit of a big deal in the jazz scene. And you can tell Joe gets very excited about this. And then his student says, well, this might be his lucky day because their piano guy isn't available, so they need someone to fill in. And then he has this sort of euphoric moment where he's like, this is my big chance, this is my big break.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he then sort of runs to the jazz club to see the band, and he's introduced to Dorothea Williams, and then he sort of goes to play, and he's like, oh, what song are we doing? And they just say nothing. They're just like, you got to go with it. And then that's the moment where he enters the zone for the first time, which is a great moment, especially like just animation wise. Like Pixar have come such a long way with what they can do, and it's just pretty ridiculous at this point, the level of detail and stuff they do in their animation.
So that's something I said, like even like from the very start, it's just like such a very like detailed, pretty film. It's just so like it just is lovely to look at. And then I'm sure we'll get into it, but like the other cool part is like for me was like this is a story or a film that could only be done as an animation. Like that you could not do it in any other way. Like other places have tried to do similar things and it just doesn't work as well as this worked. I think. So he's in the zone. He's playing with Dorothea Williams. He's kind of like an audition, right? It's kind of like but he gets lost in it. He gets lost in the music, and he's having a good time, and he plays very well.
Yeah.
And then they basically say, "Do you want to play with us tonight?" kind of thing.
Yeah, it's the bit where she sort of says, he finishes and she says like, where have you been? And then he's like, oh, I've been teaching at the school. And then she's like, right, you got a suit? Get a suit. And then be back here for like sound, the sound check and performing at 9. And then that's when he's like, snaps and he's like, I've done it. I've got this moment. And I think he's like running home to...
He's so happy.
Yeah. And then there's this dope sort of sequence where he's just like dodging death every second, and which eventually ends up with him falling into the, what was it, drain?
Yeah, the manhole.
The manhole. Falls in the manhole.
And then that's it. That was such a good sequence because I just did not see it coming. Like I came in not knowing anything. I thought that was this was going to be the whole film, but he falls in the hole and dies basically.
Yeah.
And spoiler alert, he dies. And then we're in the world.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna sort of point out because when he falls into the manhole, that's when they sort of like set off the opening sort of credits to the film.
Yeah.
And they do this really amazing sort of animated 2D animation sequence of him falling down all these intricate sort of like voids before he like enters the soul world.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
That's so good as well because it's like, okay, this is where the film starts. I love that. I love that a lot actually. Yeah, he's in this crazy like Pixar animated world. It's amazing.
Well, no. So first he goes to the sort of like escalator.
Right, the escalator. Yeah. The
and
great beyond, the
the-
escalator to the great beyond, is it?
yeah. hmm And so yeah, he doesn't know where he's landed, and he starts running sort of like back down this thing, and then he bumps into these sort of old souls, and he's asking like where he is, and they're like, oh, we're off to the great beyond. And then that's the moment he realizes, like, if he goes up there, that's it, that's life over. And
Mhm.
he's realizing, he's not going to give up on the chance he had, and he's going to fight to get back to the living land. So he's like storming down this escalator. Then he quickly realizes this huge, like, tons of people that are on their way up, and he's like, why are you just giving up and going up there? And they're like, oh, I don't know, they don't know what's going on. And he's realizing, he's got this opportunity, and he has to fight to get back. And then he sort of runs down and ends up sort of breaking through this vortexy
Yeah.
vibe, which allows him to fall down into like the soul world.
Yeah, and I mean that's pretty interesting though, because it's like, I mean, yeah, there's links with like the end of the film, but like that's also the time where you see how like, I guess unhappy is not quite the right word, but how just like he's very obsessed with this, and he's terrified. Like he's not having a good time. He's terrified of death, and he's terrified that he kind of realizes that, oh God, I need to go to this event because of this is my whole life has been leading up to this point.
Yeah.
That's when it's really sinking in for him, and you can kind of see that. So he lands in, what's the place that he lands in? It's the before land or something.
The great
The,
before.
the great before, yeah. I love that so much as well.
Yeah. And there's a thing they call it.
Something U, isn't it? It's like the U
Use
account.
seminar.
The U seminar, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's in the U seminar, and we get, of course, the cameo appearance of a lifetime. Richard Ayoade's in there. I
Yeah.
could not believe that.
You like that one?
I love Richard Ayoade, and he's great. He's a great Jerry.
Great Jerry.
Great Jerry. But I mean, even that was so cool when he landed there. I was like, oh, the great before, and then the great beyond. Like the both of those places. I mean, I can't remember whose idea it was, but it's like the idea of symmetry, right? Like a good thing to think about in terms of if you're really terrified of death, which we all are all the time, but like, it feels the same to die as it felt to not be born yet, right? Like this idea of the symmetry of life. I thought that was pretty sick, and it's like a classic idea. I think about it a lot, and it's nice to see it like animated and brought into reality. So that's very, very cool.
Yeah, man. So I guess from there, he kind of learns about the U seminar, and he's like, oh, this is where personalities come from.
Mm-hmm.
And you see sort of one of the Jerrys sending these different personalities into excitement and
Yeah.
different sort of avenues. And that's when he sort of sees, he's like, oh, how do the souls get to Earth? And they're like, oh, through the Earth portal. And then he sees that sort of thing where they're all just diving in, and then he sort of escapes over to it to try and just jump back to Earth, and then realizes he can't actually get back until he's been attached to one of the
It's like a
personalities.
pass. Yeah. Is that what I mean? You need like the Earth pass. It's like the
Yeah,
circular thing.
so the numbered personalities have like
It's like
basically
a little scout badges.
scout badges they need to collect. And I guess it's explained more when they go into the sort of game show scenario with the
Yeah, it's a game show.
yeah.
I like
And
that.
he sort of, so the souls have to like pick up a name badge, and then Joe just picks up this Dr. Borgenson or whatever he's called.
Yeah.
And so when he goes on the stage, they sort of, Richard Ayoade's Jerry character sort of introduces Dr. Borgenson and explains that he's like this psychology professor who won like a Nobel Prize and has got
Hmm.
very good work, and that's when he matches him with 22, who is this sort of loose cannon personality, which she's been matched with all these
Yeah, it's so good.
epic figures in time, and none of them have been able to like get along with her, so she's always ended up back at the U seminar.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Mm,
I love that part as well because it's like the soul before is like sold 1 billion, like it's some crazy big number, and then it's 22. It's just
yeah,
like she's been there forever, basically.
yeah,
And yeah, it's just, and then there's obviously, I'm pretty sure that's when like the sequences of like the mentors kind of start. There's a few throughout the film, but they
yeah.
kind of start there, and it's just, oh, it's a great setup. It's just a great setup for the rest of the film.
Is that when he like realizes he needs to find what her spark is?
Yeah, there's kind of some like, there's it's introduced somehow where he realizes, oh, she's only got one thing missing, the spark. If
Mm,
she can get the spark, then she'll get an earth pass. I can steal it and jump back into my body, kind of thing. Um, and he also sort of at that moment, like as he's going through Dr. Borgenson's like memories and stuff,
yeah,
kind of opens up to 22 and realizes if he tells the truth, then it's mutually beneficial, right? Because she wants to stay there forever and he wants to go back to Earth.
yeah. So then she figures out like he's not this Borgenson guy, and he opens up his sort of hall of memories,
Yeah.
and I can't remember the transition between that. I think they go through that, and then she's like on his side about things, and he's like, right, let's go find your spark so we can get the Earth Pass. And then that's when they enter the Hall of Everything.
Yeah.
Remember the Hall of Everything?
The Hall of Everything. Yeah. Yeah. It's quite an exciting place.
Mm,
I just like that idea that there's everything in here. Hmm.
yeah.
And then I can't really remember what happens there other than that. Like there's some transition. Like the next part of the film is where they go through the box, like her little box that she's got into the zone, I guess.
Yeah. So they try a bunch of stuff in the Hall of Everything, and she's just there going, meh, meh,
Yeah, that's
meh.
so good actually. She doesn't like any of it.
Mm,
Yeah. Even the pizza's in the Hall of Everything as well, and they just sort
yeah.
of poop it out.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Yeah. And then, yeah, I guess they kind of like, they give up on that and they go back to her little box. And then you notice on her wall, she's got like the name badge stickers of like every person she's tried to get attached to. And it's
Hmm.
just like never worked out. And that's like one of the big Easter eggs of the film, actually. If you go back and pause it, there's just like
Nice.
tons of very like relevant little names and stuff, which
That's
is
good.
one of Pixar's little Easter eggs they threw in there, as
Yeah,
well as
nice.
so in the Hall of Everything, one of Pixar's like things they've done notoriously through since Toy Story is in every Pixar film at some point is the Pizza Planet truck.
Right.
So yeah, if you
Okay.
go back and watch like the opening sort of shot of the Hall of Everything, the Pizza Planet truck is like in the background there, which is a nice little Easter egg.
Very nice.
Mm,
I like that. I love like. I mean, this is one of the reasons that I don't watch a lot of films because as soon as I do watch a film, generally like I go on straight onto like googling it, YouTube videos, IMDb, of just like trying to find all of these little things,
mm,
and I spend a long time just like going through them all because yeah, it's amazing some of the things that are like added and you just completely miss. Like if you just watch the film once, you have no idea it's
mm.
even there. So I love that kind of stuff. But yeah, so then they're in this. They go through the box and they enter the zone, right?
Yeah. So they're in the zone, and she's saying like how she likes to mess with people that are in the zone. So if there's like
Mm.
somebody doing some acting, and then she like flicks the bubble or whatever,
Yeah.
and she's like, "What's the line?" And then she's like, "Oh, I
Yeah,
like to
so
mess with this
good.
basketball team. Every time they're gonna like dunk, she'll like ruin it or whatever."
So good. Because that's like a feeling that everyone can relate to, of just like you're there and then suddenly you become aware of yourself and you're like, oh, what's happening, you know?
Mm.
And it's also interesting that she's kind of like quite I mean, negative is too vague of a word again, but like she's quite negative, or she's bringing people down in a way, right? She's not actually, she's being unhelpful by doing that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean that place is like, oh, it's so cool. The zone is so cool, like because you've got the bad part of the zone as well, which I thought was like very interesting.
Oh, what the Lost Souls?
Yeah, the finance exec guy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's terrifying. Like, it's really quite scary when he's like charging, and you can't really make out what he's saying.
Yeah.
And how, you know, the like visual representation of like obsession, basically.
Mm.
I thought that was very, very cool.
Yeah, because that's where they're at. So she's talking about the zone, and then they like bump into a lost soul,
Mhm.
and then the lost soul nearly gets them, but then they get sort of like saved by
Graham
Moonwind,
Norton.
Graham
Graham
Norton.
Norton. Yeah. Moon, is it Moonwing? Moonwind? Or is it
I was gonna
Moonwing? I
check.
don't know.
I was gonna fact check
Have a
myself.
goog.
Can confirm they bump into
Oh yeah.
Moonwind,
Moonwind. Hmm.
played by Graham Norton.
Yeah, quite interesting. Quite an like when I heard Graham Norton's voice, I was like, oh, okay. But no, he's pretty good.
Yeah, I think one thing Pixar are very good with is like finding like perfect voices, and like the choice of Rich Daiwadi like fit in very well with these Jerry characters,
Mhm.
because they're just very like um yeah, Rich Daiwadi's always had this like very super unique voice,
Yeah,
because most people just
definitely.
think he's British, but he's like not. He's like half Norwegian and half Middle Eastern, I think, something like that.
Right.
Very
Didn't know that.
very unique sort of what do you call that when it's like
Accent.
mixed accent? Yeah, we'll go.
Very unique, very unique accent. Like, yeah, and just way of speaking. He does. I mean, he's not really speaking as himself as much as it's more like, you know, speaking kind of like Moss from the IT Crowd, like very nasally,
Oh
but
yeah,
also like very positive. I love the like how positive the Jerrys are at everything. Like even to Terry. Like, I love that relationship is so just so silly and beautiful and wonderful. So that was
yeah.
one of my favorite.
So yeah, they speak to Moonwind, who's we find out he's able to sort of like break these lost souls out of their
Yeah,
trap, and we get the
him and his little
example of
crew.
the
Hmm.
like hedge fund manager,
Hmm.
and they
Yep.
do a very sort of spiritual sort of routine to break them out of it.
Yeah, and then he's free, and he's that's when he wakes up, and that's just ugh. The the thing about this film was like all the time I was thinking, oh, I hope they get this right. I hope they get this right, and then they do get it right. You know, I was like, a lot of the time I was worried that it would, just wouldn't be like. I was like, oh, that's not quite right, or that's a bit wrong. But no,
Yeah.
it's like every time they just hit the nail on the head with like how things feel and how things happen.
Mm. So
So yeah,
then,
because he can kind of like he's like he's alive. He's the first kind of like soul that's alive, right? That we meet.
yeah. So
He's
he's
just like
like,
meditating,
yeah.
basically,
Oh, you
spinning
mean
inside.
Moonwind?
Yeah, sorry. Moonwind is like spinning his sign and just like meditating. So he's kind of in between realms. I tell you what he is. He's the trickster archetype. That's exactly what he is. He's the shaman and the trickster archetype. We're going into like some deep Jungian symbols.
Yeah.
That's who he is.
Yeah. Because he can sort of easily dip in and out of the zone, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
crafted it so well that he's got this pirate ship in the zone and he's just, sailing around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he just, and he can. You're right. Yeah, he's kind of like the master of both worlds. His life, like on the surface of it, on Earth, is like not very good. Right? He's seen as like a crazy person. He's just spinning a sign, and people like shout at him. But he's like okay with that. And
Yeah.
equally, when he's a soul, well, when he's in the zone, he's just like he's got a pirate ship. He's just controlling the whole place. So he's a master of both realms.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So then that's when Joe in 22 explain what's going on, and Moonwind is like, right, I can help you guys. This is what we got to do. And then he sits Joe down and he's like, kind of giving this meditative spiel where he's like, right, I need you to picture, the where you're at. And then he's like, think about what you can smell. And then that's when he starts to be like, oh, I can hear the heart rate monitor, and he can smell the hand sanitizer, and he's like, good, you're there. Then he like tries to open his eyes and he's like, no, can't look. You just gotta keep your eyes closed and keep painting the picture of what the scene is. And at that point the scene like gets pretty full and it gets to the point where he can like see himself and he's like, that's my world. And that's when him and 22 just jump into it, and Moonwind's like, bruh, nah.
Yeah.
Weren't supposed to do
He
that.
just turns around, doesn't he? That's so
Yeah.
good. But I love that as well, because that's such a that's a very relatable thing. Like particularly when you're meditating, is you can really get into it, and then you start to, as soon as you start to notice or get excited that you're getting into it, you're like, it's happening. I can feel everything is happening, and then you lose it. That's what happens every time. That's life. As soon as you that's funny. Like that's life. It's like a phrase that we kind of comedically borrowed from a friend, like a friend of Romy's family, she loves the Matrix, and she talks about the bullet time moment. She's like, and when that happens, and then the one where he's like, and then he stops all the bullets and then like crushes them, and she's like, and that's life. That's what it is. That's life. That is life. And so but that is life to me, is like you can try and meditate and stuff and really get into it, and then as soon as you get a little bit excited, you can just be derailed completely, so you have to stay on the ball.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of also the start of the movie. That's like when, that to me is what the movie, like that was the most exciting part for me when that happened, when they both go in to Earth.
It was like the genius Pixar twist that they pulled. Like nobody really saw that coming, and then when that was like a big comic relief moment of the film. It was like hilarious that we had to Joe had to school 22 in his body from the perspective of him being a cat from now on.
Yeah, so good. Oh, it was amazing. And I mean the voices is just my favorite part of the whole film. That's why I'm like, it can only work as an animation, because of it. You just can't do that without like being confusing. If it's the voices, it just wouldn't, like the lips wouldn't quite line up. It'd feel weird. But because of it's all animated, you can get even like any changes of lip movement that would happen between the two actors talking. It's just like real nice. So because and it's just so perfect for Joe as well, right? I mean, this is something I made a note like later on, but like he's out of his body. You know, he's seeing himself with some distance, which is just like it's not what he wanted, but it's what he needed. You know,
Yeah.
he needed that distance from himself, and it can be like quite helpful in your life if like is to have the distance from yourself, to be more of a witness and to stand back and kind of be like, oh, Harry's having a good day, or you know, even talking about yourself in a bit of a in the third person can give you some more distance from things when it's like when shit's tough.
Mm.
And so yeah, that to me is the whole like, it's the beauty of the film.
Mm. Yeah, it's sort of a definite something you always think about, and you wonder like, what would it look like just sort of observing yourself for a day, and you just
Mm-hmm.
it's this thing that you just will never be able to experience, and they sort
Yeah,
of like make that experience possible through this, and I think he learns a lot about himself throughout the
mm-hmm.
movie, having
Definitely.
the chance to see himself from a different perspective.
Also, like he's one step removed in terms of control, right? Like he tells 22 what to say, but 22 doesn't always say it exactly how he says it. And
Yeah.
so like having that step away from it and not being in control all the time is like quite freeing for him, I think, eventually, although he doesn't like it at the start.
Mm. So I guess timeline wise, they're in the hospital and then they've got to break out, and then it's sort of that moment where 22 sees the actual real world for the first time, and everything's
Yeah.
really fast and intense, and
Intense.
she sort of, freaks out and runs away.
Mm-hmm.
um that's enough. Like, animation wise, the way they made like New York look so real and accurate, it's just like amazing.
And feel accurate. It does feel like that when you're like when you go there. It's just like it's a wild place.
Yeah. Joe finds 22 like in a corner, and she's just like, I'm gonna wait here till you die, and then it's gonna be soon because I'm really hungry. And then Joe goes steals some like pizza.
Cat Joe. Joe the cat.
Cat Joe goes steal some pizza, and then that's sort of like one of the big like life moments, I guess, for 22 when she like eats the pizza. She's like, wow, like she realizes it's something that Joe really enjoys, but it's sort of the first real life. I know I'd say it's like part of a little percentage of the spark, sort of having that food for the first time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She's like really there, you know. She has the bite, and then she's like, she's there.
Yeah.
She feels it, whatever
Mm.
it is.
Yeah. They try and get the taxi. That's what they do. They try and get the taxi, and then the band comes out of the taxi, and he's there just in like the hospital gown, and then Joe the cat just tries to like quickly get him in the taxi and hide him, and then he's all spun out because he's like, oh no, I might have screwed up the gig opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets the phone call from the student when he gets back to the house being like, yo, we just saw you, I don't know what's going on, but she said she's gonna find a replacement, but he's still like gonna ride for him and see what he can do and speak to her. And at that point he's like, right, there's still a chance, we've got this, we haven't screwed it up completely. And then they go through the sequence of um getting him dressed and getting him showered, and then he has that student knock on the door, which
Mm-hmm.
I felt was like quite a interesting moment. I don't know if you had any thoughts on that.
Yeah, the student comes to the door, and she's just like saying that she's going to quit, and that's when you see like how like so Joe the cat is just like, oh, it's fine, like she's just let her be, we've got something else to focus on. That's the time where you see like how much of his life he's missing, you know,
Mm,
how many things he's missing out on. That's the first time you see it, because and he definitely gets like more obsessive, particularly about the gig, and more like, I need to get there throughout the film, and that's like definitely the start of it. So, and when you see, yeah, that's another moment, right? It's like the pizza. There's another part of it for 22
Mm.
because she goes out with what's really cool is that she's yeah, that's because that's what happens, right? The student's like very negative and wants to quit, and 22's like, oh wow, you sound great, like, because 22 loves quitting and just loves being down on things, so she's like connects to her in that way. And then the student plays, right? The student plays some trombone, and that's the moment. That's another
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah, and that's definitely something, like as you said, Joe would have just like written it off, like she doesn't want to quit, let her go, she'll be fine.
Yeah.
But 22 gets to experience this like moment where, you know, said she want to quit, but like then she's like, well, let me show you this thing I was working on, then maybe we'll see if we quit. And then she does this like dope little bit, and then 22's like, damn, kind of
Yeah.
feels Joe's love for music, but you know, the saying you love music, and there's like, you know, he's taught her to sort of get to that point, and he's given her the passion to give music a shot, you know.
hmm Yeah, definitely. And as you were talking there, I thought about something else, like just how like he says that he's obsessed with music, right? He talks about it a lot, but like then he missed that time, you know. He Because she comes in, she's right at the start of the film as well. She does a little solo, and he's just like, you know, she's got it, and then he gets lost it, but himself, right? Because he plays a bit of piano
Mm,
as he's kind of reminiscing the first time. I think is that maybe when he's reminiscing of the first time that he heard music, like with his dad or something.
mm,
Or that I could be conflating two points in time there, but he says he loves it so much, but because he's so obsessed, particularly with making it, or you know, whatever it is, he's missing the thing that he loves. Like he'll give up the thing that he loves in order to make it.
mm.
Um, so yeah, that was a great point in time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did enjoy that. And then we have like the goes back into the house, and he's still like as a cat, he's obsessed in the house. He's going mental. He's like thinking about tearing up his sofas and stuff, which I thought was a nice
Yeah.
little thing to put in there. And then of course, then is it the shaver? The shaver goes.
Yeah, that's when it sort of transitions into the barber scene. So
Mm-hmm. Oh,
he's
the barber scene, so good.
he's trying to cut his hair. The cat's trying to cut his hair with the shaver, and then slips, and then screws it up, and he's like, right, got to get down to the barbers. And then
Yeah.
that's when that scene begins, which, yeah, as you said, definitely one of my favorite scenes in the entire film.
Oh man, it's just like it just like lays it on more than even the previous moment with the student. It just puts it even heavier on you, which is like, so he goes into it like this guy. Oh, it's kind of, I like the bit where it's like, no, I'll wait for this guy for the haircut. I like that. That's something I've done in my life, so I found that quite nice. um,
That's a good thing about what's the one sort of good thing that's come of COVID? Like my usual like hairdressers, they've now got an app, and you can select the exact barber you want to go see, and it's not
oh,
like
that's nice.
a raffle when you go in and you're like, oh, that one's nearly finished, I don't want to go with that one.
Yeah,
You can
yeah.
just go to your same barber every time quite easily without having to awkwardly say no to someone.
hmm
But yeah, it is yeah, I appreciate that moment in the film.
Yeah, so good. And then, so he's getting, yeah, so 22 is getting Joe's haircut, and Joe the cat is like on the lap, and so he's got this kind of like interesting vibe about him, because obviously he looks like a crazy guy with a cat, and he's talking very different to how he'd normally talk.
Mm,
So people are kind of like interested in that, because if someone just comes in and they're completely different, like you're always going to be interested in that kind of thing. Um, and wow, yeah, I mean, we don't have to go into a lot of detail on that, but like some of the things I was thinking about was just like, I mean, it's particularly how like at the end the barber's just like, oh, you never really asked, you know.
mm,
I was like, oh, that's it, man. He never asked.
yeah.
He didn't get to experience that. He didn't, like. everyone that you meet, you can like learn some stuff from, you know.
Mm,
And Joe is not doing that, or was
no.
not doing that. Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know if there's
no.
anything that you wanted to add about that scene.
Yeah, I guess what my thing I liked about it is how like Joe figured out that he wanted to be a vet or something, and
Hmm.
he was like, "Oh, you didn't get to be a vet. You must really not like doing
Yeah.
this." And he's like, "Whoa." He's like, "I'm way happy doing this. I get to like speak to people every day, and
Hmm.
make how he says like he gets to make people feel happy through like looking better with like their haircut and stuff." And yeah, I felt like it was just, as we kind of said before, it was just like way too relatable than like to like actually going to your barbers. It was like it's just so spot on, like because definitely like this year going to the barbers has just become like something I kind of look forward to. Like I look forward to that little chat I have with the guy that cuts my hair. And it's interesting because my friend Jack also like goes to the same guy, and he'll like talk about me when he's having his haircut, and I'll talk about him, and then it's like this conversation we're having, but it's all going through the barber, and it's very
Yeah.
I it's just become something I've enjoyed recently,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
that
No,
sort of
definitely.
that scene really you know reminded me that it's kind of like a special moment when I do that now.
Yeah. Good. Oh, that is good. Yeah, that's one definite like amazing part about the film is that it does like it took me there. You know, a lot of the times when that kind of thing happens, it like every, all the time you suddenly wake up, you're like wow, or that can happen sometimes, and the film is good prompts to kind of do that, to open your mind a bit and just take things in. The other
Mm,
part about that particular scene and what you mentioned there that I liked was like going into it, Joe's kind of saying like, "Oh, he's always wanted to be a barber. He was born to be a barber. Like he really loves it." And I was like, "Oh no!" But like that was a moment where I was like, "Oh, they're gonna get it wrong." And then, of course, he's like, "Oh no, I just fell into this and I managed to find meaning in it." And I
mm,
was like, "Oh, that was like a complete moment of relief for me because of yeah, I think it's more about like finding the meaning in things than like oh, this is a thing I've always wanted to do, and then you go and you do it. Like they're very different things. Some people have that, but not everyone has that, and I think it's like really cool to talk about that.
mm.
Speaking in a film, they're walking from the haircut, feeling pretty good. Oh, and also in the barber scene, we get the line, "I'm in the chair," which is nice. 22 says, "I'm in the chair," um, which comes up a bit later on, but that's yeah, that was nice. So yeah, they leave the barbers and they're walking back to the flat. And Joe the cat has like this kind of monologue going on about, okay, we're gonna get there. We've got to do this. We're gonna go get the thing, and then we're gonna be ready so we can meet. At some point, I guess they meet fucking Moonwind again. But
Yeah.
is that after the haircut? Maybe it's before even. I don't know.
Yeah, so they leave the barbers, and then um Terry thinks he's like found
Oh,
thingy, and then and then
gets the wrong
he
guy.
ends up getting the wrong guy that just left the barbers, and totally just freaks him out.
Yeah, yeah. Oh dear, not good. That would have been nice if that was a little bit more tied up.
Yeah. Um that's the interesting thing about Terry. Like I've always questioned whether it was a necessary thing to even have in the film. Because I think
Mm,
Pixar was like, we need some sort of bad guy. We need a bad guy situation
mhm.
as just sort of like a classic, you know, film sort of thing that needs to be some sort of bad guy element. And I guess it was very lighthearted, and it's just like this weird New Zealand accent trying to
Yeah,
make sure Joe actually dies.
yeah.
Guess it was like a polite sort of Grim Reaper situation. But anyway, so they have the hairdresser bit, and then I think they're in like the mad rush to find Moonwind again outside of the jazz club.
Hmm. Oh yeah, you get there's a few moments before that, like moments for 22 before that, like she's lying on the subway grate and the wind
Yeah,
comes up. Um, oh, there's another bit where we have where the suit as well. Like he
yeah,
goes back to his mum. Is that before that or after that? I don't really know. I think that's after the. I think that's after the barbers. Like she drops the hat, picks it up, and rips the suit.
yeah. And then they realize they need to go to his mum's house, and he doesn't really want to go there because he's going to be like, I need this for a gig. And she's going to be all like, no, you need to stick in your job. And then that's when,
Hmm.
yeah. So when that's leading up to like, when I watched it the first time, I genuinely like, I was like, oh, oh. So
Yeah.
they go into the like her business, the tailoring, whatever, and they go in and he's having to do his like housekeeping. He's like, oh, you need to kiss so and so. I always kiss so and so.
Yeah.
And then
So
he goes and speaks to his mum, and he's sort of arguing with her about what he wants to do, and then
oh, there's a shot there which I loved so much, which is like Joe the cat is telling 22 Joe like what to say, and then the it's like a long shot, and it pans behind Joe's mum's head, and the voice swaps from uh, 22's voice to Joe's voice, because if you
uh,
don't, I love that because it's like it would be awkward if it's like the cat and then 22 and then to the
yeah,
mum. Instead, it was just like we'll just make that one thing. I thought it was just very cool
mm,
because like as a viewer, that the cat is really saying the thing, and then 22 as Joe is repeating it, but you don't need that. Like you don't need to see all of that, which I was just
mm,
like, oh, that's nice.
they
Yeah,
have
it's
it
an
out.
intense chat.
Yeah, so he's sort of explaining what he wants from life, and she's telling him the reasons. He's like saying like about his dad, and like, why did you let dad do what he wanted to do? And then she was like, because your dad had me and I was able to support and stuff like that. And it got a bit intense. And then I think it was the moment when Joe was like, you know, if I died today, like, would would I be happy with the life I lived? And I think that's when his mum like was a bit woke to what he was saying.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah, that scene is good because it gives you more context on his mom and why she is the way she is and how she feels about everything. And it's a moment where they both understand each other, right?
Mm,
Because he says the truth. Like at first, he accidentally says the truth to his mom, and then he eventually says everything he wanted to say.
mm,
Says like lying and dancing around the thing. He says what he needs to say, and she gives him his dad's suit, which is of
yeah,
course
that's the bit that got me. I was like, oh, because the
it's
cat,
such a classic.
yeah,
Come,
yeah, it's the way the cat says, like, that's my dad's suit. And I was like, oh,
yeah,
oh,
of course, it's your dad's suit.
yeah,
Like that's yeah, just like mythologically, that's just like what has to happen.
mm,
You have to put on your dad's suit and make it new in a way.
mm,
So yeah, that's kind of that scene really. Is there anything
yeah.
else?
No, so he gets the suit and
And
um,
now he's pretty convinced he can make it on time because they got to go meet Moonwind on the corner to be so that they can swap him over.
yeah.
And he's
So
pretty convinced by that.
yeah, and that's the bit when they like go and meet him, and they like get ready to do the whatever he's gonna do,
Yeah.
and That's the bit. Isn't that the bit where like the little like spinny thing comes off the tree?
Hmm.
What do
Yeah,
you think? What do you think of that moment?
that was amazing. That was what probably my favorite moment of the film. It's just like shit, yeah, because 22 in Joe's body is like looking around and just like seeing all this stuff, and she's yeah, it's just like she's completely there and open and everything. She sees the beauty in everything and the life in everything. And like, you know, that's you have moments like that in your life. Like sometimes you just like feels as though you're seeing everything in a different color, or you've woken up and you've like, oh, I didn't realize these shops had like buildings above them. Like I didn't realize it was multi-floor. You start looking up and seeing all these different things.
Mm,
And that's kind of what's happening, and she realizes that. And yeah, I think that's the moment, you know. I think that's the moment for 22.
mm. And was that when she like runs off and she's like, you know, I'm not doing this, not going through with it. And then
Mhm.
Joe's freaking out because he's like, dude, I need to get to the gig.
Yeah,
And then,
that's we also get the line which is like, oh, that's just boring old life stuff. You know,
mm,
Joe says something like that. That's just boring old life stuff,
mm,
which is just like such a oh, just like an amazing, amazing line. Like it just tells you so much about the character. It comes up later on, and it's just oh, it's great.
mm. And I think that's the part when we have the big sort of chase scene where like Terry clocks them while they're like
Ah,
chasing after each other.
hmm.
And he's like, right, I'm gonna get you, little soul. And and then they sort of end up going into like the sort of like subway underpass, and then
So,
um that's when he gets, is that when they see like the busker guy? Or is that before?
oh, we've missed that part. We've missed that part
I
out.
missed
Yeah,
that part.
that's before. That's the first time they're in the subway and they see the busker. Yeah,
Yeah. That
that's
was
another
another
great
sort
moment.
of spark moment.
Uh huh. Yeah,
Because he
another
like
spot.
he throw I like how he just throws that piece of pizza or whatever it was into
Yeah, the bagel, the
the
quarter of the
bagel.
bagel.
That was funny.
Very funny. 22, like, yeah, that was nice. I like 22 kind of has like a very primitive understanding of like what things mean and like norms and stuff. So that feels perfect for her to do, but obviously it's a bit weird.
Mm,
And yeah, so they're then the second time they're in the subway and they're getting caught by Terry. It's like a very cool shot where like 22 as Joe is running and the cat's running after, um, and then like I don't know, it kind of like pans into this. I mean, I don't know how you describe the void or something where you can see
yeah.
that they're
Like
being kind of
Terry
caught.
opens up the void into
To the other dimension.
the other dimension, and then he's the cat Joe the cat tries to like stop, and then 22's already fallen in, and then it's like this cool slow-mo thing, and then they're like back in the, that's when they're back in the soul world at that point.
Yeah, that's when like they get there, and then I think the Jerrys say, oh my god, like she's got an Earth pass. But then it goes a bit wild from there. I think
Mm.
can't remember that transition exactly, to be honest.
Yeah, because she gets the Earth pass, and then he's like, thanks, and then he kind of reluctantly takes it, and then he reluctantly goes back, and he does the gig, and then
Yeah,
there's
I wrote a quote down from that, which was "Get ready, Joe Gardner, your life is about to start."
yeah,
That's what Dorothea says to him, and I was just like, oh, because he kind of he almost knows. Part of him knows at that point that all of this stuff, like he knows that he's just been really like horrible to 22, and he knows that all of this point has been leading up to this, and he's already kind of starting to feel like, oh, maybe it's not going to be this. You know, there's part of him which is thinking like of a deep part of him that maybe he's not even necessarily that aware of, but like part of him knows like what's about to happen.
mm.
So yeah, he starts. Oh, actually there's a little bit before that, is there, or maybe it's after that? Oh no, it's after that. So we'll keep going. So he plays the performance, does the performance, and then there's like the bit as they're exiting the venue, right?
Oh, what that quote?
She tells the story about the fish, right? And
Yeah.
she says, well, first she says, like, what do we do? He's like, what do we do next? Great question. What a question. You've done the thing that you've been waiting for your whole life. What now?
Mm.
And then she tells the story about the fish and the
Mm-hmm.
ocean, which is like, what the story is like, this younger fish goes up to an older fish and says, can you help me? I'm looking to get to the ocean. Where's the ocean? And then the older fish says, oh, this is the ocean. We're in the ocean. And the younger fish says, no, this is water. It's just like, oh,
I want the ocean.
it's so good. Like it just sums up the whole thing. Like he's trying to find a thing, but he's already at the thing. He's already there the whole time. He's been missing it.
Yeah, no, that's a very good bit they put in there. That summed everything up very nicely.
Yeah. So he gets back to the apartment. Is that what happens next?
Yeah, and so he's in the apartment and he's got his music out and he's playing and he's just like, I think that's the point where he's like, he wants to be in the zone, but he's not in the zone, and then he kind of like ditches the sheet music, and then he gets all those little bits and bobs that they'd collected, or 22 had collected throughout being in like Joe's body. And he's kind of like reflecting over the items and starts playing, and then I feel like he's realizing what his life is, and then I feel like, was there like a sort of like a flashbacks to all these little sparks? So you see the first time he ate the pizza, and you saw him like helping the kid, and you see him with the little bit that fell down from the tree. And I think it's an important part for everyone, really, because I feel like everyone's chasing this one big moment, like playing the gig or whatever, and then most people don't look back and realize is like your life is more than that. It's all these little bits and bobs that make up you, and you're not this one soul just chasing this one dream. Like you can have these big epic moments happen in your life, but at the end of the day, nothing's gonna happen from that. I felt something I saw yesterday where it was kind of like, yep, that is, somebody tweeted, because apparently Elon Musk became like the richest person in the world or something, and he replied and he was like, how strange. And then he just put, well, back to work, I guess. And I was like, yep, like you can like, some people just like chase becoming millionaires and billionaires, but like that's the richest that's the person that's achieved the highest rank in that sort of world. This guy is at the top. You will never get above this guy, and he's at the top, and he's like, right, nothing's different here, just keep going back to work.
Definitely. The other part I like about that is how wrapped up we can get in just like in like news and other things that are going on in the world, when it's so you get and you feel like, oh my god, particularly this week, it's like, oh my god, it's crazy stuff's happening. But then like you can just be like, oh, okay, oh, that's happening. You can just be like you can have more distance to it. Like, oh, that's happening. Well, I'll just continue doing this, or I'll feel this way.
Yeah.
Or have a look at this.
Yeah, that's the thing I liked about how we started this, because any other two people talking could have just made that the topic of conversation and run with that for 2 hours, whereas we just sort of said that's a thing that happened and it was kind of a big deal, but quickly kind of brushed it to the side and start talking about what we actually like came here to do.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's more valuable, to be honest. I think that's more important. Like, you got to sort your own shit out first.
I'm so deep in the zone just talking about this stuff.
I'm having a great time. Yeah, that's true. I'm deep in the zone. That is true. Um, yeah. So yeah, he's like playing the he's playing. I was like he's playing the memories, and that to me was like such a good, just like such a good metaphor for like how. I mean, sometimes you listen to a piece of music and it can just like take you somewhere, and you really are just like there, or like it will remind you of something, or you'll feel a certain way, and it was just great for that. And so yeah, then he's in the zone, and old Graham Norton spots him. Is that right, or someone?
Yeah, he's in the zone, and then he kind of, yeah, he's in the zone, and then he's like, quickly realizes that, he can now get back to 22, and then he like jumps off the piano and into the ship with Moonwing, Moonwind, and he's like, I need to find 22. And then Moonwind explains, he's like, oh, I did find it strange when you didn't return back to the half note. And then I found 22, and she's become a lost soul because, she, had this vision of, starting life on Earth, and Joe sort of took that away, and obviously Joe felt terrible about that, and then that's why he's come back to get her. So yeah, then him and Moonwind go and try and save her because she's now a lost soul.
Yeah, so that's when, yeah, what was it? Lost souls. There was something I wrote another quote down. I can't remember who says it, but it was like lost souls are obsessed with something that disconnects them from life. I was like, oh god. I mean, that like hit me as well. And then particularly as they're chasing after. I mean, it's a great sequence, that whole thing where they're chasing after 22,
Mm,
and yeah, I guess the next big moment is kind of like when 22 eats Joe, and
yeah,
pulls him under, um, which is very mythologically valid. He gets pulled under into the underworld, into the darkness, and that, yeah, I mean, that's just, I feel like that's such a great scene where like all of these people from 22's life are like shouting at her. You can see that it's the voices in her head, and like, who are the voices in our heads? Who are the voices in our heads telling us that we're not worthy? Who's saying that?
yeah,
And you can really like see that in that moment, and it's just, yeah, very. I think that was like really powerful like images. Like, it makes me so excited because it's a kids film as well. I just love that it's a kids film, and there's just like so much powerful stuff. Like, for adults, like, that's, everyone gets that, and for kids to have that kind of a mental model in their head, even if it's not conscious, or they've just have it like as an image, it's just, yeah, I just feel that's really powerful stuff. Yeah, so he manages to get her out of her place by giving her the little spinny tree thing,
mm.
the seed. Oh, it's a seed. Yeah, of course it's a seed. Like, it has to be a seed. The thing that gives life, man. The thing that gives life, of course.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, and then it's kind of like starts getting wrapped up, and Richard Ayoade's like, Terry's like, oh, I need to take him back, and Richard Ayoade kind of replies like, no, no, or maybe it's the other Jerry. It's just like, no, no, it's a custom to let the mentor see the mentee off, the soul off onto
yeah,
Earth. And that, oh man, that's the part that got me. I was just like bawling my eyes out of that part. Like, oh, it's just so lovely. Really, really lovely.
yeah. Because essentially, what like Joe's giving up his life for her to have a life.
Yeah. Yep. We also figure out, I guess that's the time, that must be the time where we find out more about the spark, is it? Yeah, it must be where they're like, oh, maybe that was before. I don't remember, but I remember Ayuadi says something. I wrote it down, which is, it's like, you mentors and your crazy thinking. That's not the thing that people are obsessed with, you know.
Yeah,
Because it's kind of set up that way that someone's spark is the thing that they should be doing all the time, but that's not what it is.
yeah,
Oh, so good. Yeah, I mean, Is there any other kind of scenes towards the end that you want to talk about? Like, for me, that's that moment where they're both like soaring towards the earth is just like it just ticked all the boxes, and that was it for me. I was happy with that.
Yeah, yeah, I do think it's interesting your opinion on the at the end, the Jerry just being like, "We've decided to give you a second chance."
Yeah,
It's kind of like,
I get it. I do get
you
it.
do
Like,
get it. Part of you wants it to be a little extra sad and like have him actually pass to the great beyond, but
mhm.
definitely from a kid's film point of view, like everyone would be
Had to be done.
chuffed to see Joe actually be able to go back as well.
Yeah, and also like there's the other part that I like. The reason I didn't mind it so much is that there's like a I mean, I want to say it's Nietzsche, might not be Nietzsche, it could be like Aristotle or something, but there's a thought experiment which is like every time you have to make a decision in your life, imagine you've already lived your life and made that decision, you know? And when you start to think as if you've already lived your life, or the other way, which is like, I'm going to make this decision, and then when I die, I'm going to have to live this life exactly as I've made it, with all the decisions I've made, and having that kind of like second, I don't know, being able to like have that second chance, even if it's just in your head, makes you feel a bit like, makes you really think about it, and you can tell that, you know, if Joe was going to go back, like if he was going to go back to his life, everything would be different. You know, even at that time when it's offered to him, he'd live his life differently. So it's nice.
Yeah, but no, overall, bloody
Great
good
film.
film.
Loved it. Absolutely loved it. I mean, it's like, it's probably my favorite Pixar film. I mean, I loved Inside Out, and this just felt like more Inside Out, and
Yeah,
or like it's down that path, and it's just so good.
the same director who did Inside Out did Soul, and I
Nice.
was watching like a video of him talking about it, and he was sort of saying like, how can we? It was basically like, how could we possibly top Inside Out? Like, how could we take that sort of, thinking about thoughts and emotions, but do this different spin on it? And he kind of started explaining like the idea and all the as the like when you watch these things, and as you said, you were seeing moments and you're like, oh, I don't know if they're going to pull this off. Like, I think with Pixar, you like don't at this point don't need to worry, because like the amount of research they do for these things is insane. Like they were talking about how they spoke to like every different religion about what a soul is and what it means, because that was the main thing they were worried about, is just like, how can we do this without pissing people off?
Hmm.
And so yeah, they just spoke to multiple people from like every religion to get like people's ideas and beliefs about what souls are, and just like the design, like everyone was a huge fan of sort of like the soul world and how they looked, and all that had like immense research done for it. And like the Half Note Jazz Club, they went to New York and literally went to like every jazz club in New York and just took little bits and bobs to sort of create and build up the world. And even sort of Joe's character, like although he's voiced by Jamie Foxx, like the sort of the real soul of that character was this um sort of like jazz musician. I forget his name, but they sort of like like filmed him like playing the piano, and they
Nice.
sort of like, I don't know, pixified that or whatever they did.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, it's just very intense research and development goes into Pixar, especially that film. And yeah, really was amazing. And
Mhm.
oh, that was one of the fun facts I wanted to tell you. So the Jerrys were inspired by got to give a shout out to Seth Rogen for telling me this, because I didn't know. Yeah, the Seth Rogen tweeted, obviously I love Soul, because I'm not a heartless monster, but was particularly amazed by the homage to Pablo Picasso's light paintings.
Damn.
I'll just show you the picture you put up.
Oh wow, yeah,
Yeah,
that's cool.
I thought that was pretty dope.
That's really cool.
Because I was convinced it was something to do with the Finder icon on the Mac.
Yeah,
Because
I do know that.
I knew Steve Jobs like owned part of Pixar at one point,
Yeah.
and I was like, shout out to Steve. But then, like, maybe I'd like a little bit something to do with that. But yeah.
That's good. I hadn't noticed that. I like that. It does. It did look like that as well. But then maybe Finder was just inspired by Picasso also.
So going into award season, I'm very interested where it's gonna, like, obviously at this point nothing is gonna touch it in terms of best animated film. I know last year it was a bit like last year it was all Toy Story 4, and Toy Story 4, it was a good film, but it was just them sort of continuing to pump out the Toy Story machine. Like they said that was the last Toy Story, but they have announced they're going to be doing a origin story of Buzz Lightyear, so that's
Yep.
interesting. But no, I think this is going to sweep award season in terms of animated picture. Genuinely believe like it's a bit of a will it, won't it, but I'm pretty confident this is going to get nominated for best picture, which is like kind of a big deal for, I think only Pixar films have ever managed to transcend into best picture categories. I know Toy Story 3 was nominated. So I don't know, considering like how dodgy film releases have been this year, like I think it genuinely stands a chance of potentially winning best picture. I know that's very sort of quite a bold statement, but I don't know. Like
Take your
a
word
lot
for it.
of a lot of the blockbusters that were meant to be in contention for award season have been already pushed back into like mid to late this year, so won't be contending until the 2022 award season. So yeah, who knows, but I think it was genuinely a really great film. Out of all the sort of big blockbusters slash sort of film nerd films that have released this year, I think, yeah, it's definitely up there, and it's gonna do very well come award season. We need to come up with like our own
Rating system.
film rating system.
I mean, the problem is I'm going to rate all of them 10 out of 10, man. That's the problem. I'd rate this out of 10. Yeah. And 2p coins out of 10 2p coins. If you could do a little animation of them stacking up, that'd be great.
Wait, so we're doing 10 out of 10 cops.
Coppers, yeah.
Coppers. How many coppers?
And you can, if you can get a little animation of like pennies and two pennies. I'm saying 10 out of 10, 100%. This was a fantastic film. Did everything I wanted it to do, and I loved it. I'd watch it again. I want everyone to watch it. I think it's great. For yourself?
So you said, hang on, but you said you liked Inside Out. So how many cops did Inside Out have compared to this?
10 out of 10 as well. Definitely. Like both of those films are like up there in terms of like I really can't like fault either of those films. You know, I think they're so good. So yeah. What about you? What are you rating it? Yours is probably gonna be harsher. You've seen a lot more films than me.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of Pixar, it's definitely quickly entered like my top 3 Pixar films of all time. But when I have to come down to the wire and critique, and obviously it didn't like, I don't know, it was pretty amazing. It was a pretty amazing film. So I'd say I'll give it a solid 9. Solid 9.
That's fair. I think that's completely fair. Yeah, great. So, what's happening for next week? Are we announcing it now, or
And yeah, we can just do the sort of weekly catch up at the start and then get
I
into
love
it.
I've had an amazing time. Really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like talking about films, particularly with you. So I like this as a format a lot.
This will be like the first one that goes up on YouTube.
Yep.
So yeah, hopefully everyone enjoyed it. If you have any thoughts or questions, I guess put them in the comments. And yeah, if you haven't watched Soul yet, I guess we spoiled the whole thing, but go ahead and watch that.
Anyway,
And yeah, I guess we'll catch everyone next week for the next one.